Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cricket Fables. I, as usual, am Jamie Alter.
I'm Neha Bhardwaj Alter.
And as promised, we are previewing the Brisbane Test, but with a very special guest, a very dear friend of ours, a man who, to cricket viewers and cricket fans in India, will need no introduction, but still I will give him one because he deserves one. Anand Vasu, who I have had the privilege of knowing for, I want to say 16 odd years now. We worked together at Cricinfo when I was a fresher, and Anand, I won't use the word senior veteran because I know he doesn't like these words, but he was my senior at that time, and then through our many trips together covering cricket across India and across the world, we became good friends. So Anand, welcome to Cricket Fables.
Thank you very much, Jimmy.
He's a man of few words when he wants to be. But Anand, let's get straight into it. You know that so many Australian tours over the years have often begun at the Gabba. Here we have the Gabba, the fourth and final test of the series. Did you ever think it would be the deciding test match?
Well, at some point, it looked like there might not even be a test match at the Gabba. Like even a week ago, it looked a bit iffy. But I think no. After 36 all out, certainly did not think that the series would still be alive going into the Gabba. I mean, you have to have Ravi Shastri level confidence to have thought it would have finished up like this. It was, yes, 36 was an aberration, but even without that, missing Kohli and then rapidly losing so many other players, it didn't look like we would be going into the final test with a chance of actually winning our second series in Australia.
Yeah. This test match just comes down to recovery and fitness now, Anand. I mean, we were talking about how India is going to field an 11 after, the kind of injuries we've seen this team get. Now, today, Vikram Rathore spoke about, all the things, but whenever he was asked the question of what is going to be your team, who are you going to put out there, he was tight-lipped and he kept going back to, let's see, in the morning, we're going to figure out what happens. We'll decide our 11 in the morning. And rightly so, because half of your team is injured. Now, going by that, what do you think would be your playing 11?
Well, I guess everything centers around Jasprit Bumrah and R. Ashwin. I mean, if those two guys are fit, then your 11 is pretty much settled. It just means that in batting order, I would think the 11 would be Rohit Sharma, Shubman Gill, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane, Rishabh Pant, Mayank Agarwal, Washington Sundar, Ashwin, Bumrah, not necessarily in that order, Bumrah, Siraj, yeah, there's your 11. So the three fast bowlers, including the left armer, T. Natarajan, and Washington Sundar, just because he, brings that level of batting. We haven't seen it much in the IPL and other places, but in Tamil Nadu circles, everyone knows that he's batsman first and then off spinner. It's great that he bowls economically in the death and all that. So that seems to be all he's used for in T20s, whether it's IPL or India. But he's a much, much better batsman than that.
And I think, Anand, you're right. That is the factor which is going to get him the nod, if at all he's even in the reckoning, is the fact that he is a batsman first. You're talking about Ashwin, who's batting and now is the focus, given how bravely he batted on that final day. So if Ashwin is not fit, Washington Sundar would be an ideal replacement. But you're saying even if he is fit, you see them playing Sundar and Ashwin together?
I think so. Mainly, I say more for the batting, just like how Jadeja came into the team initially. You wouldn't think that Australia is a natural place to play two spinners unless it's a real turner in Sydney. And Jadeja came into the side before that. It's simply because it's kind of stacking as much batting as you can together in 5, 6, 7, 8. Simply because you don't have a settled number 6 batsman. You don't have Gill is playing his first series. Rohit's playing his second test as an opener overseas. Pujara and Rahane have been hit and miss. When they've been good, they've been really good, but they've also been nicked off early in other times. So I can understand why they would want to strengthen the batting as much as they could.
Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask you is that you said Mayank Agarwal with Rishabh Pant. Given that Rishabh Pant is not fit, we know that he has that elbow, dislocation. Do you then think that Rishabh Pant, that Saha should come in instead of Mayank Agarwal in place of Hanuma Vihari and play Rishabh Pant as a specialist batsman and let Saha keep the wickets?
Well, personally, I would say 10 times out of 10, Saha should keep wickets in Test cricket. While Pant's counter-attacking innings in the last game was exciting to watch and a major factor in pushing Australia back so that India could back through for the draw, his keeping is still far from ideal at Test level. And I think Saha's not as bad a batsman as he's been made out to be. It's more that we have had unrealistic expectations of him and how he should play.
Yeah.
He's not a fool with a bat. He averages I think 42 in first class cricket. He's got 13 hundreds if I'm not mistaken. He averages about 30 in Test cricket with a bat. I mean, that's if he's going to be batting at number 7, those are perfectly acceptable numbers. And the risk, again, at the risk of sounding repetitive, we don't calculate the costs of those drop catches when Pant lets them off, and we don't calculate the averages of how many runs were saved when Saha pulls off a stunner like he did in the last Test down leg side. I don't think most keepers would have even got to that ball. So I personally think that Saha should play, but I don't think the team thinks that way.
But if Rishabh Pant is say fit enough to bat, that's one thing. Because like you saw on the 5th day, he had enough strength in him to bat. Do you think if he's not strong enough to bat and keep, would they then see Saha as the keeper and then Pant perhaps just goes up one spot to where Vihari would bat, and then you see them both playing in the same 11?
They could, but I think from what we saw on the last day of the last Test, Pant is if he's fit enough to bat like that, I think he's certainly fit enough to keep wickets. Yeah. So I don't think fitness is the issue. It's whether the management see enough value in Saha.
Yeah, good. Then just coming back to the fast bowling. Would it also not be a risk? You have Mohammad Siraj, who made his debut at the MCG, bowled well enough. He's 2 Test old. You have Saini, 1 Test old. Natarajan's coming in as the debutant. Is that perhaps a bit too much of a greener tag, or is it one of those situations where you need to go on the spark and just take a bit of a risk?
Well, again, the team's approach would be more likely to play Shardul Thakur because he also gives a little bit more with the bat. He's got a lot more experience at the first class level, at least. Although at Test cricket, he's also pretty green. So I think genuinely they will be waiting for the morning of the Test for the toss or just before, pushing it as much as they can. And it's, at 1-all, do you go aggressive? Vikram Rathore has said today that, we're not looking to draw the Test. We're still looking to put our best 11 on the park that can win the game. That sometimes people have to say things like that when they come to press conferences. But I do think that, with the kind of gains that you've had in this series, after having so many players injured, it would be unwise to squander all of that. I think the first step should be to look to, take the game as deep as possible. And safety first, I think, will be the kind of approach that Rahane goes with. But of course, with Ravi Shastri there, you can never tell.
So you're saying the team would, I know there was all this discussion around Jasprit Bumrah and how fit should he be to take the field. If he's 70% fit, he should be allowed to take the field. If he's 50, then, hold him back. We have a long season ahead. What's your take on this whole thing where people are talking about, look, if Jasprit Bumrah is not going to be there, who's going to lead the attack? Mohammad Siraj, who's just 2 Test matches old.
Yeah, if you don't, I don't think the thought should be about how long the season is ahead or about the England Tests at home or anything like that. As long as you're not risking a longer-term injury, if he's fit to play, he should play. Because the opportunities to win a series in Australia don't come that often. Yes, India won the last time, but journalists of a certain age like ourselves can remember tour after tour after tour of Indians going to Australia and maybe winning one test match, not often being in a position to even like, look at a series win. So if he's fit, Bumrah should play because if both Bumrah and Ashwin aren't fit, then you're going to be in real trouble. This will be the greenest attack, irrespective of who you choose. I think it'll be the first Indian test attack that doesn't have 50 wickets between them since the Melbourne test of 1948.
Wow. Wow.
That'll be a really green attack. If
Wow.
Bumrah
And how many of us would have thought that by the fourth test we would be without Bumrah, possibly Ashwin, Jadeja, Umesh Yadav,
Shami.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is one crazy tour so far. But also, I wanted to pick your brain on this whole controversy around Steve Smith. Do you think he was doing it purposely, or do you think that he was all innocently walking there and just shadow practicing?
I don't really care what his intentions are. He shouldn't be doing it. He can mark his guard as much as he wants. He can shadow bat as much as he wants when it's his turn to bat. When India's batting, he has no business being there. I can see that he does these things instinctively. He's this quirky personality and all that, but I don't think any of that is any justification for doing something like that. I mean, he was not that far from scuffing up the pitch. If you look at it, one foot was on the crease, but the other one was kind of pirouetting around, just outside the crease. And it's just a bad look, especially after all that Steve Smith has been through.
Precisely.
He knows, and you know that now there's cameras on you all the time. The stump mics are on. The players are smart enough to use the stump mic to sledge commentators sitting in the box. The Australians did that in the last 6 months, so they know exactly what kind of scrutiny is there. When you know that, then don't do it. It's just a bad look.
Yep, exactly. I just found it totally unnecessary. I'm not even going to get into, like you said, the quirkiness and why. Just don't do it. It's the age of so many cameras, like you said. And, I mean, it's been a while, but you had a 12-month ban for something far serious. I just found it utterly, utterly needless. But Anna, just going back.
And it's also pointless because even if you do erase the guard, the batsman's just going to take fresh guard again. So what do you achieve apart from creating a unnecessary bit of controversy and, generally having taking us away from the game and forcing us to talk about silliness?
On top of that, I mean, that whole point of why was he taking a left-hander's guard as well? Like, you shadow bat, but
quirky.
How quirky are you?
And then for Tim Payne to say, Steve's feeling really bad about it. Don't do it, buddy.
There's nothing that Tim Payne has done right in this test match. I mean, the poor guy has been the whole world is out to get him. Isn't that so? Anand, what is your whole take on this whole thing also about Sunil Gavaskar saying Tim Payne, his days are numbered? Tim Payne's come back and now said, look, I'm not going to say anything to Mr. Gavaskar. He can say, nobody can really, keep him quiet. So he'll say what he has to. But I don't know, what is it with Australians? Why can't they just keep to the game?
Well, a lot of the time they just asked their opinion on something that's been said. So that's down to us, really. It's journalists who are needling them sometimes to get a story. Mr. Gavaskar, the legend that he is, unfortunately, is not a selector in the Australian national setup. So he doesn't, while he might have an opinion, he doesn't pick or drop Tim Payne. So I don't think Tim Payne will be very fussed about what Mr. Gavaskar thinks on the issue. And Payne, let's not forget, he's had a massive impact in the last couple of years. I mean, he did Australia going to England and winning the Ashes, coming back after this whole sandpaper gate mess. Payne's he had a really bad test match, but he's had a very big influence over Australian cricket in the recent past.
And he got that match-winning innings in Adelaide too. When everyone was scoring in the 40s in the strike rate, he got it around 78, 80. But we won't get into strike rates. Just wanted to ask you, Anand, because I know you've been to Australia, mate, and you've covered Indian cricket for a long time.
And you were stuck during COVID, weren't you?
You were also stuck in Australia for some time, yes.
Yeah, you were. So that's a long, long time that you were there for, Anand. How long were you stuck in Australia due to the whole coronavirus lockdown?
I don't know if I'll call it stuck, but I was there for about a little over 6 months.
Right.
Well, from your Instagram posts, I could the worst places to be sitting
To be
around
stuck.
during lockdown. But nay, I just want to say, you've seen so many Indian teams under different captains. Just going back to earlier what we touched upon, 36 all out, the world against you. Very few people are saying, oh, this is just one of those freaky once in a generation days. People say, no, this is horrible, this is thing. Kohli's gone, blah blah blah. That same Rahane then finds the will to lead the team. Didn't make any changes to his style. Obviously, he got that fine 100. But that team then goes to Melbourne, wins there. Obviously, confidence goes up. Then you escape at Sydney. So despite all the problems we've seen off field and the injuries, is this not saying something about how this team just is not going to cower down to any kind of pressure on the field?
Yes, I think it says a great deal about this team. And I think it also says a great deal about how this team has come together. While Kohli has been a terrific leader, while he's had the captaincy record, which most other captains in the past have not had. When Kohli is around, attention is always so much on him. Especially when you go to Australia. Australia seems to be obsessed with Kohli, not just having the cameras following him all the time, but everyone's talking about him, writing about him. Everything becomes a lot more about Kohli when he's around. Not for any fault of his. It's not that he's seeking to attract attention, but so much of the attention does go to him when he's around. So when he's not, I think the focus becomes more on the team as a unit, because there isn't that much attention on Pujara, on Rahane, on Shubman Gill, on none of these guys, or even Rohit Sharma doesn't draw the kind of attention despite being, such a dominant player over the years. So I think the team, firstly, they had nothing to lose. Secondly, Rahane's style of leadership is just very quiet, behind the scenes, you look at all his press conferences, the first thing he does is say, he played well and he played well and he played well. And look at how the debutants did today. He's always talking about someone else. He doesn't draw attention to himself even after he scores 100, like the kind of 100 that he did earlier in the series. So I think in just a subconscious way, this team has been able to come together really tightly with no real distractions, no outside influences. While they may not like the bubble they're in Brisbane, in their COVID bubble, the kind of bubble they've built for themselves, I think, has worked really well and worked in their favor in this series.
Yeah, I think, if there's one team, given the way they have played so far, that can do it despite the injuries and all the, lack of basic facilities in their hotel rooms, I think it is this team. Anand, just the final thing then, do you want to make any predictions before we let you go on? Let's first of all, I really think that both teams, given the fact that they would need to recover, even Australia, let's face it, they've had a very long last 2 days of the Sydney test. I mean, their bowlers wouldn't want to go out there and bowl first. They really want to win the toss, bat first, right? I think we can say the same about India as well. But what do you think, say, that if India wins the toss, what do you think from there onward? Just predict the game for us.
I think this is a great opportunity for India, because all the pressure is on Australia. They're playing at home. They don't have the same kind of injury hassles. They would have definitely felt that they had enough overs to wrap up the Sydney test. So Australia have all the running to do over here, I think. I mean, India just needs to go out and whatever they can get out of this test match, it will be a bonus. If they get out of it with a draw, 1-1 series retained, Border Gavaskar Trophy retained. If they win 2-1, then it's history. And it's like kids who have barely played test match cricket winning in Australia. So I think India has absolutely nothing to lose. And Australia, we saw even in the last test, when they got put under pressure, when they got desperate to try and force through Indian wickets and try and push the game forward, they also fell apart quite a bit. I mean, that's an excellent bowling attack, and they kept their nerve in terms of their bowling, but in terms of their behavior, you could see they were getting ragged around the edges.
Absolutely.
So I think all the pressure is on Australia going into this Test match.
Anand is said all the pressure is on Australia without giving a prediction as to what's going to happen. Fair enough. Yeah, I think like we said earlier, we've seen so many tough tours of visiting teams start at the Gabba tour as it's called. But here we have one ending. I know it's been called the best wicket by many people for the bounce on offer. We've seen teams get rolled over. We've seen Australia score 580 in the last test they played there. And again, I just full credit to the way this Indian team under Rahane, like you stressed on, has gone from 36 all out to now leading the team, as battered and bruised as it is, to the fortress, Australia's fortress, with a chance to walk away with the Border Gavaskar Trophy in their hands. Anand Vasu, thank you once again. We will look forward to seeing you frequently when you have time. And
Yes.
thank you so much. And here's us looking at the Brisbane Test, hoping that, like Anand has outlined, that the Indian team walks away with their health. I think even if they do lose, they've done a lot to leave with their heads held high.
That's right. I mean, they've been battered, they've been bruised, but they're unbowed. That's the way I see this Indian team. And despite the injuries, if we've seen in recent times what the Indian team can do, they can go ahead and win this game as well. So Anand Vasu, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the insight. Love talking to you. See you soon.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. And yes, let's speak again soon.
Goodbye for now, everyone.